Quick question. Do you know why sex causes pregnancy? Obviously you do. Now imagine not knowing. Not as a kid, as an entire adult society, for generation after generation after generation. That was the normal human experience for most of our history. Here's the thing. 9 months is a long gap. No calendars, no writing, no way to track time precisely. Connect one moment to a birth almost a year later, that's not obvious. That's a genuine mystery. And for most of human history, entire cultures never solved it. Let's start with the reality. Anthropologist Bronisław Malinowski spent years living with the Trobriand Islanders in the early 1900s, and what he found didn't match anything he expected. People there didn't believe sex caused pregnancy at all. They believed a spirit called a Boloma entered a woman's body near a sacred coral outcrop and did the rest. Her partner, basically irrelevant to the process. Malinowski asked directly, repeatedly in different ways. The answer never changed. And they weren't alone. In parts of Aboriginal Australia, some groups believed ancestral spirits caused pregnancy near specific sacred sites. Nothing to do with a physical act. In ancient Egypt, medical papyri like the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus described the womb as something that could wander through a woman's body, shifting location, causing symptoms depending on where it moved to. In ancient China, early theory leaned on balancing yin and yang energy, not a single causal act between two people. 3 completely different continents, 3 completely different explanations. None of them landed on the one answer you learned in a 5-minute conversation as a kid. And even where cultures did connect sex to pregnancy, they still got the mechanics wrong. In ancient Mesopotamia, Sumerian medical texts describe conception as a mixing of seed from both parents, which sounds close to correct until you realize they believed the mixture happened inside the womb, almost like pouring 2 liquids into 1 cup, with no concept of individual cells at all. It was the right general idea, built on a completely wrong physical model. So how did we ever figure it out? Here's where it gets really interesting. The leading theory isn't philosophy. It's farming. Around 10,000 years ago, in the foothills of the Zagros Mountains in what's now Iran, humans domesticated goats. And once you're herding animals, you're watching them mate and give birth, season after season, generation after generation. The 9-month gap is still there in humans, but with goats, it's closer to 5 months, happening to the same herd over and over at close range for years. The pattern becomes impossible to miss. Breeders even started deliberately pairing specific animals to get traits they wanted: coat color, size, temperament. Archaeologists can actually track this in the bones. Selective breeding leaves measurable changes in skeletal remains within a few hundred years of domestication, which means at some point someone understood cause and effect well enough to control it on purpose. And then someone made the leap. If it works this way for goats, maybe it works this way for us too. That connection didn't stay in one valley. Archaeologists tracking early farming settlements across the Fertile Crescent, places like Çatalhöyük in what's now Turkey, find domesticated animals and human burial practices shifting around the same general period. Ideas moved along the same trade routes as grain and livestock. A realization made in one herding community could spread to the next valley within a few generations. That's the moment. Somewhere between a herd of animals and a human village, someone connected a dot that changed everything about marriage, inheritance, and family structure forever. But here's the part nobody talks about. Knowing that sex caused pregnancy didn't mean anyone agreed on how. Aristotle, one of the most influential thinkers in history, argued in his work Generation of Animals that men supplied the form, the actual blueprint of the child, while women only supplied raw material. Basically, an unshaped lump of clay waiting to be given shape. That idea didn't just show up and disappear, it stuck around in Western science for almost 2,000 years, repeated by physicians and philosophers who never questioned it. It wasn't even the only competing theory. Centuries later, the Greek physician Galen pushed back on Aristotle directly, arguing that that women contributed their own version of seed too, not just raw material. Two of the most respected medical minds in the ancient world, disagreeing on the basic mechanics of how every single human being comes into existence. And neither one had any way to actually check. And because paternity itself was so hard to prove without any biological test, entire legal systems got built to compensate. The Code of Hammurabi, written in Babylon around 1750 BC, laid out detailed inheritance rules. Almost all of the pharaohs, and this is how they found out the real science behind reproduction.